Welcome to By the Well podcast, produced by the community at Wall Street United Methodist Church in Jeffersonville, Indiana. We focus on clarity, compassion, and community. You will hear sermons as well as conversations around the intersections of faith and life. If you enjoy this podcast, like and share below.
First Testament lesson is coming from 1 Corinthians 16, verses 5 through 20. I will visit you after passing through Macedonia, for I intend to pass through Macedonia, and perhaps I will stay with you or even spend the winter, so that you may send me on my way wherever I go. I do not want to see you now just in passing, for I hope to spend some time with you, if the Lord permits, but I will stay in Ephesus until Pentecost, for a wide door for effective work has opened to me, and there are many adversaries. If Timothy comes, see that he has nothing to fear among you, for he is doing the work of the Lord just as I am. Therefore, let no one despise him. Send him on his way in peace, so that he may come to me, for I am expecting him with the brothers and sisters. Now, concerning our brother Apollos, I strongly urged him to visit you with the other brothers and sisters, but he was not at all willing to come now. He will come when he has the opportunity. Keep alert, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong. Let all that you do be done in love. Now, brothers and sisters, you know that members of the household of Stephanas were the first fruits of Achaia, and they have devoted themselves to the service of the saints. I urge you to put yourselves at the service of such people and of everyone who works and toils with them. I rejoice at the coming of Stephanas and Fortunus and Achaeans, because they have made up for your absence, for they refreshed my spirit as well as yours. So give recognition to such persons. The churches of Asia send greetings. Aquila and Prisca, together with the church in their house, greet you warmly in the Lord. All the brothers and sisters send greetings. Greet one another with a holy kiss. The gospel lesson today is coming from Mathews 7, verses 7 through 12. If you please stand. Ask, and it will be given to you. Search, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who searches finds, and for everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. Is there anyone among you who, if your child asks for bread, would give a stone? Or if the child asked for a fish, would give a snake? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? And everything do to others as you would have them do to you. For this is the law of the prophets. For the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
You may be seated. Thank you so much, Karen. I want you all to know I apologize to Karen before the service started for all the names in the first reading. So she was gracious. Well, as you probably remember, we last week wrapped up a sermon series that we called Happy to Be Here. We asked what draws us here, what draws the pastors. We talked to each of the pastors, talked about what has drawn them into faith community, or to the United Methodist Church, or to Wall Street in particular. And then we asked many of you to share what draws you here, what makes you happy to be here, and you all shared some of the things that make you happy to be here, things like reconciliation and community and mentoring, discipleship. And we were delighted to hear those things. We were glad that we had asked that question. But there's two more questions that we've been meaning to ask you. And so the last 2 weeks of the summer, it's the last 2 weeks of the summer. Can you believe that? The last 2 weeks of August? We're going to ask those questions together. And so you see what the question is today. I want you to think back before that happy to be here series back in June. This area looked different. There was a hotel lobby set, and Peyton and I came through the doors and changed into our sweaters and our shoes, and we talked about being a neighbor, because we were talking about the prodigal son story, which was the kind of cornerstone story of our music camp. And in that conversation, I invited you to flip that question that's asked in the parable of the Good Samaritan on its head. And so instead of asking, who is my neighbor, I invited you to start asking, how is my neighbor? How is my neighbor? And then as part of that, one of the things that we talked about, I shared with you a shift in perspective that I had heard in how we might approach our neighbors, that instead of saying, how can I help you, that the question we need to ask is, what do you need? What do you need? Because that shifts the perspective from the person giving help to the person who needs help, right? And so we invited you to think that way. Well, in the weeks that followed, and then especially in conversations with Pastor Nancy and Pastor Harley, it occurred to me that I have never asked you, what do you need? What do you need? What do you, the individual members of the family of God here at Wall Street United Methodist Church, what do you need? And what do we need together as a community of faith? So I've been meaning to ask that, and I thought today is a good day to do that. So I'm asking, what do you need? Now, we are good Midwestern Methodists, even if we're from Texas. And so our first instinct might be to be like, I don't want to be a bother. I don't want to be a bother. I don't need anything. I'm good. And as I say to my kids, I know you're good, but I asked what you need. What do you need? Because asking for our needs to be met is biblical. So if you need assurance that it's okay to say, this is what I need, know that it's in the Bible. We just heard Karen read it, right? We hear Jesus encouraging, ask, knock, seek. If you guys who are ordinary human beings with all your foibles, if you want to give good things to the people you love, gosh, can't you imagine how much God wants to give good things to you? Because he loves you. So Jesus encourages us to ask for our needs to be met, to say, this is what I need. And then Paul models it for us. I have come, it's taken a long time, but I've come to really love Paul. And part of why I love Paul is because of the ends of his letters. Because after all the theology and all the ecclesiology, which is a fancy word for basically theology of the church, Paul then kind of says, okay, I'm done with that. And then this is just me. This is just Paul. And I'm just writing to you guys. You guys, we know each other. We're friends. And he says, here are the things that I need. Here's the things that I need right now. Can I stay with you guys when I come through town? My friend's coming to visit. Will you guys look after him? Make sure he has everything he needs. I need you to take care of yourselves because you're precious to me. Take care of yourselves. I need you to hear that our friends all say hi. And I need you to say hi to each other when I can't be there. The other thing that I need you to help those guys because you know the good work that they're doing. I need you to work with them. I need you to say thank you to those people who were able to do things that we weren't able to do. And if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't have gotten done. So I need you to be thankful to them. Here are the things that I need. I love at the end of what we call 2 Timothy, after that kind of, take care of this person and watch out for this person. Paul asked Timothy, he says, hey, can you bring I left a coat back at the other place. Can you bring that when you come and see me? Oh, and make sure you get my books and definitely get all of my notes. I wrote down a whole bunch of notes. Bring those with you. I love that. That's very practical stuff, isn't it? Right? So saying what we need is biblical. It is a right and good and joyful thing to make our needs known, especially in our community of faith, especially with each other, to say, this is what I need. So now you're maybe saying to yourself, okay, all right, I'm going to try to say what I need. Kathy, I'd love to answer that question, but I'm going to be honest, I don't know what I need, or I don't know if I need anything. I think I'm okay. Am I okay? I can't remember. Am I okay? I absolutely understand that struggle to identify the things that we need. I have, and some of you have probably heard me say this, I've often said that my faith journey, my path into ministry, I describe my path into ministry as God opening a series of doors that I didn't even know were there, right? Opportunities and relationships and encounters and ideas that I didn't even know existed, and God opened those to me. So sometimes I don't know how to knock because I haven't had to. And so then when all of a sudden I come up against a door, well, I'm not quite sure what to do. Not quite sure what to say, what to ask. And truly, some needs are hard to name. I have been blessed over the last several weeks that I've had a number of dear friends here in this faith community look at me and say, what do you need? And all I could think of was, we need boxes to pack Zoe up so we can take her back to school. I have some now, so you guys don't need to worry about that. But there's other things that I need too. And those are much harder to name. They're harder to name for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's just because it's like, gosh, I don't know. I feel like something's not right. I feel like I need something else, but I'm not sure what it is. And sometimes it's hard to name because we're like, I have no idea how Lauren could possibly give that to me. So if I name it, I don't want to put pressure on her. I don't want to make myself vulnerable. How do I do that? There's a variety of reasons why it's hard to identify sometimes the things that we need. So I want to help today by lifting up some of those things that people tend to need. And perhaps that will help spark an answer to the question, what do you need? So what we're going to look at, there was a psychiatrist, and forgive me for the microphone. We have relatively new microphones that we're still figuring out. There was a psychiatrist named Abraham Maslow. You might have heard of him. He created what was called the Maslow's, it's funny, Bill, that they named it after him, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, some of you have heard of this, particularly if you've been in education, if you've been in healthcare. We talk about it in business and leadership training. It's a theory, and there are some things that don't quite work in it. But I think it's interesting because what it came out of was Abraham Maslow's desire to have a positive approach to mental health and wellness. Because his argument was we need to stop focusing on what's wrong with folks and start looking at the totality of who a human being is. And to think about that maybe some of the things that we are reacting to come from unmet needs. And so what are some needs that we have? And he starts at the very beginning. The most basic is we have physiological needs, right? We have things that we have to have in order to survive. We have to have air. Talking about wildfires, Zoe and I were in New York City this past week. We didn't have an issue with anything, but I know that in weeks before that, they'd had issues with the Canadian wildfire affecting the air, right? So like there was a play that an actress had to stop in the middle of the play and say, I literally can't breathe in here. We have to stop what we're doing. We all need to go home. So air, water, food, shelter, clothing, those things that we need to be able to survive. It's that physiological need, right? And that's the thing that we often think about. How can I help you? If we're Methodists, the first thing we think of is, I can bring you some food. All right? So physiological needs. Another need that Maslow talks about is the need for safety. And that's a personal sense of security. It is having good health. It is having an income or resources, right, to meet those basic physiological needs. It is having structure and order, right? A sense that the world makes sense. That sense of safety. Another need that we have is, of course, social, right? We are created to be in relationship. We are created to be in relationship with other people, with the world around us, with God, right? So that social aspect is friendship, it's family, whether that's found family or family you're born into or family you marry into. It is community. It is a sense of belonging, right? I am part of a group. I'm part of something bigger than myself. I have that need to feel a part of something, right? The next need that Maslow talks about is esteem. And what he means by that is that idea that we all need to feel respected, right? Our dignity as human beings needs to be honored. We need to feel that we are seen and known, and that we are right to take up space in the world. Esteem also involves a sense of purpose. There is a reason why I am here. There is something or some things I'm called to do. There are people that I'm called to be in relationship with. So it's that idea of purpose. The next is the idea of self-actualization. That's what Maslow called it. We would call it kind of becoming the fullness of who you are, right? The fullness of who you are. And so this is our human need for creativity and beauty and exploration. I want to know more. I want to know more, right? I want to see beautiful things. I want to create. I want to express the things that I feel and see and experience, right? And then finally, he talks about self-transcendence. So this human need, I want to feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself, so that's my community, but it's also this idea that my humanity is a part of all. This is where spirituality comes in. This is this idea of believing that there's meaning. There is an arc of existence that I get to be a part of, but that transcends me. Altruism comes in here. This idea that it's not only that my needs are met, but it's this deep desire to meet the needs of other people, right? To say my community also deserves to flourish. I also want my community to flourish. I also want the world to flourish. I want people I'm never going to meet to flourish. I want their needs to be met, right? So it's all of those things. I think that part of what draws us here, part of what makes us happy to be here, happy to be a part of a community, a faith community, whether that is the church, capital C, universal, whether that is the United Methodist Church, whether that is Wall Street. Part of what draws us here is that the church helps to meet these needs, right? Sometimes the church provides us with those basic needs for survival. Again, I'm sick, we'll bring you a casserole. But it's also that sense of safety and order, right? That's why we get so agitated when we change things in a Sunday worship service, right? Is because part of what we come longing for is a sense of order, that things will be happening in a way that we can expect and anticipate, right? And of course, we've heard it, right? This idea that we come to a faith community because it's a community, because there are people we love, who we know love us, who see us and care about us, and we care about, right? We come into faith communities for a sense of purpose, right? What makes a good life, and how can I be a part of that for myself and for others? And we come, of course, to churches to be creative, to express ourselves creatively, right? To experience beauty, to explore and grow. Nancy talked about that beautifully last week with that idea of mentoring and growing. And of course, we come to churches for our spirituality and for a way to express and to be a part of altruistic activities and endeavors. And part of what makes us happy to be here, part of what draws us here, of course, is that the church does provide a conduit not just for meeting our needs, but it also provides a conduit for us to help meet other people's needs, right? Zoe and I flew into an airport, took a train from that airport into Penn Station in New York City, right? And so you come into Penn Station and there's like these doors, and it says track 1, track 2, go through the doors, and you can go from Penn Station to all over New York City, right? And in some ways, the church is like that, right? And so you can see a door that says, my neighbor is hungry, my neighbor is lonely, my neighbor is sick. There are people who are longing to believe that they matter, right? And I come to church because it helps me to be here as a platform from which I can go through all of those doors and help meet other people's needs, right? And that's part of my need too, right? So that's part of why we're here. We want to fulfill the needs of our neighbors, and we want to fulfill our needs. And that's biblical and good to say we come together to help fill the things we need filled, to help carry the things we need help carrying, to help bear the things we need help bearing, right? We want to fulfill your needs. And since I've never asked, I'm asking now. What do you need? What do you need? We are going to sing. We are going to give. And in those times, I want you to be thinking to yourself. I want you to be pondering and reflecting and opening your heart. What do you need of all of those things, all of those possibilities? Maybe something I didn't mention. Maybe something I've never thought of. What do you need? Here's what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to worry about how on earth could the church possibly do that for me? How on earth could Kathy possibly give that to me? That's not the question right now. The question is, what do you need? What do you need?
You have been listening to By the Well podcast from Wall Street United Methodist Church. Thank you for being a part of our community. As a reminder, visit us at wallstreetumc.org, and we invite you to like and share our podcast wherever you are listening.